Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you something. How much time do you spend talking about what's wrong in your life? Be honest. How often do you replay the same story, sharing your frustrations, your setbacks, your struggles, thinking, maybe this time someone will swoop in and save you? Seeking validation from others often feels like the natural thing to do when we're overwhelmed by life's challenges. It's comforting to share our struggles and receive a nod of understanding, a pat on the back, or a sympathetic ear. But while this can feel like a relief in the moment, it rarely moves us closer to resolving the issues we face. Instead, it can keep us trapped in a cycle of focusing on the problem rather than the solution. When you spend your energy seeking validation, you're essentially saying, I need someone to agree with my pain before I can move forward. But forward motion doesn't come from validation, it comes from action. Think about this for a moment. Every time you tell someone about your struggles, you're essentially reinforcing those struggles in your mind. The more you talk about what's wrong, the more you give it power, the more it expands in your reality. It's like watering a plant, you're feeding it and helping it grow. But what kind of plant are you nurturing? Is it a garden of possibility or a thicket of limitation? When you focus on seeking validation, you're watering the latter. You're cultivating a mindset that says, I can't do this alone. I need someone else to confirm that my pain is real. But you already know it's real. The real question is, what are you going to do about it? Validation can be a double-edged sword. On one hand, it feels good to be heard and understood, to know that someone sees your struggle. But on the other hand, it can become a crutch, something you rely on to feel okay about staying exactly where you are. The more you seek validation, the more you give away your power. You're essentially outsourcing your emotional resilience to others, hoping they'll say the right thing, offer the right advice, or make you feel better. But here's the truth, no one else can solve your problems for you. That's your job. And the sooner you take ownership of that, the sooner you'll find your way out of the struggle. When you focus on solutions instead of seeking validation, everything changes. Solutions require action, and action requires you to step into your power. It's not about ignoring your pain or pretending it doesn't exist, it's about acknowledging it, and then choosing to move beyond it. This shift in mindset is incredibly liberating because it puts the control back in your hands. You stop waiting for someone else to give you permission to feel better, and you start creating the conditions for your own growth and healing. Focusing on solutions doesn't mean you have to figure everything out at once. Sometimes the first step is simply asking yourself a different question. Instead of, why is this happening to me? Ask, what can I do to improve this situation? Instead of, why doesn't anyone understand me? Ask, how can I express myself more clearly or find the support I need? These small shifts in perspective can open up a world of possibilities that weren't visible when you were fixated on seeking validation. Another powerful aspect of focusing on solutions is that it forces you to confront your own role in the challenges you face. This isn't about blaming yourself, it's about recognizing that you have more agency than you might realize. When you take responsibility for your own experience, you reclaim your power. You stop being a passive participant in your own life and start actively shaping it. This is where real change begins. It's important to understand that seeking validation often stems from a desire to avoid discomfort. It's uncomfortable to face your problems head-on. It's uncomfortable to admit that you don't have all the answers. But growth always happens outside of your comfort zone. When you stop seeking validation and start focusing on solutions, you're choosing discomfort in the short term for the sake of long-term growth and resilience. You're choosing to prioritize progress over temporary relief. Let's be clear. This isn't about isolating yourself or refusing to ask for help. There's a difference between seeking validation and seeking support. Support is about finding resources, tools, and people who can help you take action. Validation, on the other hand, is about seeking approval or sympathy without necessarily moving forward. When you focus on solutions, you can still seek support, but you do so with a clear intention to grow, not just to feel better in the moment. One of the most powerful things about shifting your focus to solutions is that it builds momentum. Action creates energy, and energy creates results. The more you focus on what you can do, the more empowered you feel. And the more empowered you feel, the more action you take. This positive feedback loop can transform even the most challenging situations. But it all starts with the decision to stop seeking validation and start taking ownership of your journey. When you're focused on solutions, you also become more resourceful. Instead of waiting for someone else to give you answers, you start looking for them yourself. You become curious, creative, and proactive. You experiment, you learn, and you adapt. This resourcefulness is a key ingredient in overcoming challenges and achieving your goals. It's what separates those who thrive from those who merely survive. Another benefit of focusing on solutions is that it shifts your mindset from scarcity to abundance. When you're seeking validation, you're often coming from a place of lack of understanding, support, or affirmation. But when you focus on solutions, you're coming from a place of possibility. You're looking for opportunities, answers, and ways to grow. This abundance mindset not only helps you overcome challenges, but also attracts more positive energy and opportunities into your life. It's worth noting that focusing on solutions doesn't mean you'll never feel the need for validation. It's human to want connection and understanding, but when you prioritize solutions, you'll find that the need for validation becomes less pressing. You'll feel more confident in your ability to navigate challenges on your own. And when you do seek support, it will come from a place of strength rather than dependency. Ultimately, the choice is yours. You can continue seeking validation, hoping that someone else's acknowledgement will give you the strength to move forward. Or you can decide right now to take control of your own story. You can choose to focus on solutions, take action, and create the life you want. It's not always easy, but it's always worth it. When you constantly share your struggles, you inadvertently build an identity around them. This happens gradually and often unconsciously. The more you talk about your challenges, frustrations, and setbacks, the more they become intertwined with how you see yourself. Your problems shift from being external circumstances to something you internalize, something you start to believe defines who you are. It's like carving grooves into your mind. Each conversation, each complaint, each moment of dwelling on your issues deepens the impression until it becomes the lens through which you see yourself and the world around you. The truth is, identity is powerful. How you see yourself dictates how you behave, how you interact with others, and how you approach the future. If you begin to identify yourself as someone who is perpetually stuck, struggling, or victimized circumstances, that identity will shape your choices and limit your potential. It's not because you're inherently flawed or incapable, but because you've allowed those struggles to take root in your mind as part of your core narrative. Once a problem becomes part of your identity, it feels harder to let it go, because letting it go would mean changing how you define yourself, and that can feel unsettling or even threatening. What makes this cycle particularly challenging is that sharing struggles often feels validating. When you tell others about your problems, they respond with empathy, concern, or advice, and this feedback can feel good in the moment. It reinforces the habit of sharing, making it more likely that you'll continue to do so. But over time, this pattern creates a feedback loop. The more you talk about your struggles, the more they become central to your sense of self, and the harder it becomes to separate yourself from them. What starts as a way to seek understanding or relief ends up reinforcing a limiting identity. Breaking free from this cycle requires awareness and intention. The first step is recognizing how often you're sharing your struggles and asking yourself why. Are you looking for solutions? Are you seeking validation? Are you trying to connect with others through shared difficulties? Once you understand your motivations, you can start to question whether this habit is serving you. Is it helping you grow, find answers, or improve your situation? Or is it keeping you tethered to a version of yourself that's defined by problems rather than potential? These questions can be uncomfortable, but they're necessary if you want to shift your identity and create a more empowering narrative. Changing your narrative doesn't mean ignoring your struggles or pretending they don't exist. It means choosing to define yourself by something greater than your challenges. It means shifting your focus from what's wrong to who you're becoming in the process of overcoming those struggles. This is not about denying reality, it's about reclaiming your power to shape your reality. You are not your problems. You are the person who faces them, learns from them, and grows through them. This distinction might seem subtle, but it's transformative. It allows you to separate your identity from your circumstances and take ownership of your growth. One of the most effective ways to reshape your identity is to start speaking about yourself in terms of your strengths, values, and aspirations rather than your struggles. Instead of saying, "I'm always stressed out," you can say, "I'm working on managing my time and energy better." Instead of saying, "I'm terrible with relationships," you can say, "I'm learning how to communicate and connect more effectively." These subtle shifts in language might seem insignificant, but they have a profound impact on how you see yourself. They reinforce the idea that you are a work in progress, not a finished product defined by your current challenges. Another important step is to become intentional about the stories you tell yourself and others. Every time you share something about your life, you're reinforcing a narrative. Ask yourself, is this the story I want to tell about myself? Is this the identity I want to strengthen? If an answer is no, it's time to change the story. This doesn't mean you have to lie or sugarcoat your experiences. It means reframing them in a way that aligns with the person you want to become. Instead of saying, "I failed at this," you can say, "I learned a lot from this experience and I'm applying those lessons moving forward." This simple shift changes the focus from failure to growth, from limitation to possibility. It's also essential to recognize the role that repetition plays in shaping identity. The more you repeat a thought, a statement, or a story, the more it becomes ingrained in your mind. This is why it's so important to be mindful of the words you use and the narratives you share. If you find yourself repeating the same struggles over and over again, it's a sign that you've started to internalize them as part of your identity. Breaking this pattern requires conscious effort and practice. It means catching yourself in the moment and choosing to speak differently, even if it feels unnatural or uncomfortable at first. Over time, these new narratives will become second nature. Your identity is not just shaped by the stories you tell yourself, it's also shaped by the people you surround yourself with. If you're constantly engaging in conversations that revolve around struggles, complaints, or negativity, it's easy to absorb that energy and let it influence how you see yourself. On the other hand, if you're surrounded by people who focus on growth, solutions, and possibilities, it's much easier to adopt a more empowering identity. This doesn't mean you have to cut people out of your life, but it does mean being intentional about the conversations you engage in and the energy you allow into your space. One of the most liberating realizations is that your identity is not fixed. It's not something you're born with or something that's dictated by your past. It's something you create moment by moment through your thoughts, words, and actions. This means you have the power to redefine yourself at any time. You can choose to let go of the parts of your identity that no longer serve you and embrace a version of yourself that aligns with your highest potential. This process requires courage, self-awareness, and a willingness to step outside of your comfort zone, but the rewards are immeasurable. Another key to breaking free from a struggle-based identity is to focus on your vision for the future. When you have a clear sense of who you want to become and what you want to create in your life, it becomes easier to let go of the narratives that don't support that vision. Your vision acts as a compass guiding your thoughts, words, and actions in a direction that aligns with your goals. It gives you something to strive for, something to anchor yourself to when the pull of your old identity feels strong. The more you focus on your vision, the less power your struggles have over you. It's also important to celebrate your progress, no matter how small. Every time you make a choice that aligns with your new identity, acknowledge it. Every time you catch yourself reframing a struggle, speaking about your growth, or focusing on solutions, take a moment to recognize that you're building a new version of yourself. These small wins might seem insignificant in the moment, but they add up over time. They reinforce your new narrative and strengthen your sense of self. The more you celebrate your progress, the more motivated you'll feel to keep moving forward. Your identity is your foundation. It's the lens through which you see the world, the anchor that guides your decisions, and the blueprint for your future. When you build your identity around your struggles, you create a foundation of limitation. But when you build your identity around your strengths, values, and aspirations, you create a foundation of possibility. This doesn't mean you'll never face challenges or setbacks. It means you'll face them from a place of power rather than a place of weakness. It means you'll see yourself as someone who is capable, resilient, and resourceful, no matter what life throws your way. Your words are far more powerful than you realize. Every time you speak, you're shaping your reality, influencing your mindset, and creating the world you live in. Words are not just sounds or symbols, they are energy, intention, and a reflection of what you believe. When you speak about your problems, you're giving them life, reinforcing their presence and anchoring them deeper into your consciousness. It might feel like you're just sharing your thoughts or venting, but what you're really doing is building a narrative, a story that you keep telling yourself over and over again. And that story becomes your reality. Imagine your words as seeds. Every word you speak plants something in the soil of your mind. When you talk about your problems, you're planting seeds of limitation, frustration, and doubt. You're nurturing the very things you want to move past, watering them with every conversation, every complaint, and every thoughtless remark. Over time, those seeds grow into a dense forest of negativity, making it harder and harder to see a way out. But here's the thing, you don't have to keep planting those seeds. You have the power to plant something different, something better. You can choose to speak solutions, possibilities, and hope. Speaking solutions doesn't mean ignoring your problems or pretending they don't exist. It means shifting your focus from what's wrong to what you can do about it. It means using your words to empower yourself rather than to keep yourself stuck. When you talk about solutions, you're planting seeds of creativity, resilience, and determination. You're training your mind to look for answers instead of excuses, to see opportunities instead of obstacles. This shift in focus might seem small, but its impact is profound. It changes the way you think, the way you feel, and ultimately, the way you act. Every time you speak, you're giving your brain a command. You're telling it what to prioritize, what to believe, and what to expect. If you say, "I can't do this," your brain starts looking for evidence to support that statement. It finds reasons why you're not capable, why the task is too hard, why failure is inevitable. But if you say, "I'll find a way," your brain starts working in a completely different direction. It begins searching for solutions, resources, and strategies. It looks for possibilities instead of limitations. This isn't just positive thinking, it's neuroscience. Your words influence your brain's wiring, shaping the way you perceive and respond to the world. It's easy to underestimate the power of words because they feel so automatic. We speak without thinking, reacting to situations and emotions without considering the impact of what we're saying. But words are not neutral. They carry weight, intention, and energy. When you say something, you're not just describing your reality, you're creating it. If you constantly talk about how stressed, overwhelmed, or stuck you feel, you're reinforcing those feelings. You're making them more real, more tangible, and more difficult to escape. But when you speak about what you're doing to improve, what you're learning, and what you're grateful for, you're creating a completely different reality, one that's rooted in growth, progress, and possibility. One of the reasons people struggle to shift their words from problems to solutions is that it feels unnatural at first. It's easier to talk about what's wrong because problems demand our attention. They feel urgent, pressing, and overwhelming. Solutions, on the other hand, require effort, intention, and a willingness to think differently. But just because it's easier to talk about problems doesn't mean it's better. In fact, it's one of the most self-sabotaging habits you can have. The more you talk about your problems, the more you reinforce them, and the harder it becomes to see a way out. To break this cycle, you need to become intentional about the way you speak. Start by paying attention to your words. Notice how often you talk about what's wrong compared to how often you talk about what's possible. Notice the language you use when you're describing your challenges. Are you saying things like, "I'll never figure this out," or "this always happens to me"? Or are you saying things like, "I'm working on finding a solution," or "I'm learning from this experience"? The difference might seem subtle, but it's massive. It's the difference between staying stuck and moving forward. When you catch yourself speaking about a problem, ask yourself, what's the solution? This simple question can shift your mindset and redirect your energy. Instead of pouring your attention into what's wrong, you start channeling it into what you can do about it. This doesn't mean you'll always have the answers right away. Sometimes the solution isn't obvious, and that's okay. The important thing is that you're training your mind to look for solutions instead of dwelling on problems. Over time, this becomes a habit, a way of thinking and speaking that empowers you instead of holding you back. It's also important to surround yourself with people who reinforce this mindset. The energy and words of the people around you have a huge impact on your own. If you're constantly surrounded by negativity, complaints, and problem-focused conversations, it's easy to get pulled into that same energy. But if you're around people who speak about possibilities, growth, and action, it's much easier to adopt that mindset yourself. This doesn't mean you need to cut people out of your life, but it does mean being intentional about the conversations you engage in. When someone starts talking about a problem, steer the conversation toward solutions. When you're tempted to vent about your own challenges, pause and ask yourself if there's a more empowering way to express yourself. Your words don't just influence your own mindset, they also influence the people around you. When you speak about solutions, you inspire others to do the same. You create an atmosphere of possibility, where challenges are seen as opportunities rather than obstacles. This ripple effect can be incredibly powerful, especially in teams, families, or communities. By choosing to speak solutions, you're not just changing your own reality, you're helping to change the reality of those around you. One of the most powerful aspects of speaking solutions is that it builds momentum. Every time you focus on what you can do, you're taking a step forward, you're building confidence, resilience, and a sense of agency. This momentum creates a positive feedback loop where each small success fuels the next. Before you know it, you're not just talking about solutions, you're living them. You're turning your words into actions and your actions into results. This is how real change happens, not in a single moment of inspiration, but in the consistent choice to focus on what's possible. It's also worth noting that speaking solutions doesn't mean ignoring your emotions. It's okay to feel frustrated, sad, or overwhelmed. These emotions are a natural part of life, and they deserve to be acknowledged. But there's a difference between acknowledging your emotions and being ruled by them. When you speak about solutions, you're not denying your feelings, you're choosing to rise above them. You're saying, yes, this is hard, but I'm capable of handling it. This shift in language is incredibly empowering because it puts you in the driver's seat. It reminds you that no matter how challenging the situation, you have the power to respond in a way that moves you forward. Your words are your most accessible tool for creating change. You don't need money, resources, or permission to start using them differently. You just need intention and awareness. Every time you speak, you have a choice. Will you reinforce your problems or will you create solutions? This choice might seem small in the moment, but it adds up over time. The more you choose solutions, the more empowered you become. The more empowered you become, the more action you take. And the more action you take, the more your life begins to align with the vision you have for it. Your pain doesn't define you. What defines you is how you choose to respond to it. Pain is a universal experience, something every human being faces at some point in life. It comes in different forms: physical, emotional, mental, but no one is exempt from it. While it's true that pain can feel overwhelming and all-consuming, it's crucial to understand that it's not the pain itself that determines your future. It's your reaction to it. Pain is a teacher, a catalyst, and sometimes a necessary part of growth. But it's never the whole story, unless you allow it to be. When you allow pain to define you, you surrender your power to it. You start to see yourself as a victim of circumstances, as someone who is powerless to change their situation. This mindset can be incredibly limiting because it blinds you to the opportunities for growth, resilience, and transformation that often lie hidden within the pain. It's easy to get stuck in a narrative where you identify more with your suffering than with your ability to overcome it. But that narrative is just a story, and you have the power to rewrite it. Choosing to respond to pain in a way that empowers you is not about denying its reality or minimizing its impact. Pain is real, and it can be devastating, but it's also temporary. Even the deepest wounds have the potential to heal if you give them the right conditions. The key is to shift your focus from the pain itself to the actions you can take to grow through it. This shift is not always easy, especially when the pain feels fresh and raw, but it's in these moments that your choices matter the most. Pain can be a great motivator if you let it. It can push you to make changes, to take risks, to step outside of your comfort zone. It can force you to confront aspects of yourself or your life that you might have been avoiding. Pain has a way of stripping away the non-essentials and bringing you face to face with what really matters. It has the potential to clarify your priorities and deepen your understanding of yourself and the world around you. But this only happens if you're willing to engage with it rather than retreat from it. Your response to pain begins with a decision. Will you let this break you, or will you let it build you? This decision is not always a conscious one, but it's one you make nonetheless. When you choose to let pain define you, you're essentially choosing to stay in the same place, to let the pain dictate your actions and limit your potential. But when you choose to let pain refine you, you open the door to growth, strength, and transformation. You start to see pain not as an enemy, but as a challenge to overcome. Overcoming pain doesn't mean you have to do it alone. It's important to seek support when you need it, whether that's from friends, family, or professionals. But the key is to seek support that helps you move forward, not validation that keeps you stuck. There's a difference between expressing your pain and dwelling on it. When you express your pain, you're acknowledging it and giving yourself permission to feel it. But when you dwell on it, you're allowing it to consume you. The goal is to find a balance where you can honor your pain without being defined by it. One of the most powerful ways to respond to pain is to find meaning in it. This doesn't mean you have to justify or rationalize the pain, but rather that you look for the lessons it can teach you. Pain has a way of revealing your strengths, your weaknesses, and your capacity for resilience. It can show you what you're truly capable of and help you discover parts of yourself you didn't know existed. It can also deepen your empathy and understanding for others, making you more compassionate and connected. Pain often forces you to confront your limitations, but it also reveals your potential. It's in the moments of greatest struggle that you have the opportunity to grow the most. This growth doesn't happen automatically. It requires effort, intention, and a willingness to face the discomfort head-on. But the rewards are worth it. When you choose to respond to pain with courage and determination, you not only overcome the pain itself, but you also build a foundation of strength and resilience that will serve you for the rest of your life. It's important to remember that responding to pain is a process, not a one-time decision. There will be days when the pain feels overwhelming, when it's hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel. On those days, it's okay to take a step back and give yourself the space to feel what you're feeling. But don't let those moments define you. Use them as an opportunity to regroup, to reflect, and to remind yourself of the progress you've already made. Every step forward, no matter how small, is a step in the right direction. Another important aspect of responding to pain is cultivating a sense of gratitude. This might sound counterintuitive, but gratitude has the power to shift your perspective and help you see the bigger picture. When you focus on what you still have rather than what you've lost, you start to see possibilities instead of limitations. Gratitude doesn't erase the pain, but it can help you put it in context and find the strength to keep moving forward. Pain also has a way of teaching you about your own resilience. It shows you that you're capable of enduring more than you thought possible, that you have the strength to keep going even when the odds are against you. This resilience is not something you're born with, it's something you build through experience. Every time you face pain and choose to respond with courage, you're adding to your reservoir of resilience. And the more resilient you become, the better equipped you'll be to handle whatever challenges come your way. One of the biggest traps when dealing with pain is the temptation to compare your struggles to those of others. It's easy to look at someone else's life and think, they have it so much easier than I do, or they don't understand what I'm going through. But comparison is a distraction. It takes your focus away from your own journey and makes it harder to see the opportunities for growth that are right in front of you. Instead of comparing your pain to someone else's, focus on what you can learn from your own experience. It's also important to recognize that pain is not a competition. Everyone's pain is valid and everyone's journey is unique. Just because someone else seems to be handling their struggles better than you doesn't mean you're failing. And just because your pain feels greater than someone else's doesn't mean you're entitled to dwell in it. The only thing that matters is how you choose to respond to your own challenges. Your pain is your own, and so is your power to overcome it. When you respond to pain in a way that empowers you, you set an example for others. You show them that it's possible to face adversity and come out stronger on the other side. This doesn't mean you have to have it all figured out or pretend to be invincible. It simply means that you're willing to keep going. Even when it's hard, your resilience can inspire others to find their own strength, creating a ripple effect of courage and determination.